Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight, Thursday, December 17th, 2020, our regularly scheduled Board of Selectmen's meeting. Ask that we all please be called to order and that we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. What a beautiful flag. Okay, our next section is our public comment section. I'll ask our presenter, is there anyone out there in Hebron land that wants to talk to us?
Because the meeting started.
Good evening, everyone. There are no public comments at this time.
It happens every time
Okay, perfect. Nice flag, by the way. That was great. Good to know. Andy, do we have anybody for good to know?
We do not for tonight's meeting. But I'll take recommendations from any of the selectmen that moving forward, if they want us to contact anybody or have any ideas.
Well, we can always get that New Year's baby that turns into an old man in a few more weeks. No, you can tell us what the next year is going to present. Okay, appointments and resignations, and I believe we have one appointment.
Yes, we do.
I'll read the motion. We'll open it up for discussion. Move that the Hebron Board of Selectmen continue to the designation of Andrew J. Tierney, Town Manager, as the Town of Hebron's representative to the Chatham Health District. This reappointment is retroactive to January 2018 for a 3-year term through January 2021, and for the next 3-year term of appointment from January 2021 through January 2024. I'm surprised that we didn't do that years ago, but.
Yeah, it kind of fell through the cracks. We apologize for that, but it came up at the health district meeting that I wasn't reappointed, so that's why we're doing it tonight.
I thought we did, but at this point, we'll consider any comments. Any comments? Hearing none, all in favor going across. Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail? You're on mute. She's there. John?
John Collins, aye.
Myself, aye. I do not see Mark Rivera on. Gail?
Dale Richmond, aye.
Okay, motion carries. Next item, please.
Okay, some of this stuff came in after we sent out the budget, so it's going to need some action. This just came in. Let me read this. So this is just came in yesterday, and it's due Friday. So
Okay.
yeah, so this is what we're dealing with. Good thing we have good employees. There's a lot of work that's got to get done, and we've got it done. We did it today. Excuse me. But this is the municipal second round, or it's a little bit different, of the municipal coronavirus relief fund program. And this will give us a reimbursement of our expenses from July 1st through December 30th, 2020 claim period. We've tallied the numbers, Elaine and her staff, and we already submitted. But what we need is the Board of Selectmen to approve her, the finance director. I think we have something.
That's the middle.
There you go. So it's a proposed motion to approve Elaine to move forward with this. It spells it out in this motion. I hope that's not too confusing, but it's typical state. We're looking at about $80,000 that we submitted for. And
Okay.
There's no percentage. We're hoping to get all of that.
Okay, I'll read the motion. We'll open it up for discussion. Proposed motion. the Hebron Board of Selectmen authorized the finance director to proceed with an additional municipal COVID-19 relief allocation for the July through December 2020 timeframe to be submitted to the OPM by December 18th, no later than 5 p.m. Any discussion? Any discussion? Hearing none. Peter?
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail Richmond?
Gail Richmond, aye.
John?
Glenn Collins, aye.
Mark? I don't know if you were able to, if you picked up any of that.
I'm reading the proposed motion. Is that what we're voting on?
Yes, it's actually the paperwork came in yesterday from the state and it has to be acted on by tomorrow. So it's basically reimbursement of COVID-19 related town expenses.
Okay, Mark Rivera, aye. Yeah.
And myself, aye. Motion carries. Thank you all.
Thank you. And a lot of that, Mark, a lot of that submission was for police and fire is what that big amount was, about $80,000.
Oh, good.
So we're working on that. Okay. So this just came down the pipe too. So that's why sometimes when we send the agendas out the Friday before a Thursday meeting, we have to sneak some of this stuff in. But the governor came up with another addition, an update for the COVID-19 long-term recovery in town departments and schools reentry and reopening. But what we're talking about here today is the latest modification is a suspension of tax deadlines in collections efforts for tax bills that become due and payable on January 1st, 2020. So they want to push that out. And I think that's till, I'm having trouble reading that. That's till April, right, Donna? Can't see it. Yeah, from April 1st through July 1st, 2020. So they want to push that out instead of being due, they pay them normally the month of January to do February 1st. They want to push those out like they did on the first half. But that shouldn't affect us. We should be okay with that. A lot of people still pay anyways. But that's the newest addition to the executive order, and a lot of towns are following this from what our assessor tells me, which we were in contact about this today. That came in yesterday.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
am I okay to ask Andy a question?
sure, please.
So Andy, do you know, and maybe Elaine reported on this before at the Board of Finance, I just don't remember. Do you know what percentage of our taxes were collected after the typical due date in this last half? I mean, I thought it was most of what we collected was within the regular time period, if I remember correctly. Do you know those statistics? I don't remember them.
Not specifically, but we were very close.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were very close. It didn't cause any problems for us.
So you're recommending, I mean, so we have a choice here, or this is, we have a choice, but you're recommending it? Or
Well,
do we not have a choice?
yeah, I'm recommending it, but it is an executive order. I mean, from the
Right.
governor. So.
Yeah, okay. So we just
I
don't
kind of,
understand it. Okay.
Dan Larson here. I kind of, in kind of reading through the lines, I don't think we really have much of a choice.
I was just curious, Mr. Chairman. I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't do it. I just was interested in if we had a choice.
I agree. But my issue is, they keep pushing off a lot of this, which all sounds fine on the outside, but, towns still need money. I actually know people that rent out, rental units, and they, thank God, have not had a lot of people claiming COVID-19 reasons for not paying their rent, but their bills don't go away. It's, I don't know. I understand the concepts. I understand some of the reasoning, but, a lot of other people, their bills don't disappear just because,
Well, the challenge too, Mr. Chairman, is that you delay and then you're now always behind. either at the town or even at a personal level. So if I wait till April to pay, great. When's my next payment due? July. Well, I can't pay July because I waited to pay until April. Now I need more time. You know, it can be a sort of a difficult cycle to break if you're working hard to pay your taxes. If you just simply wait, it can actually put a future burden on you, because at some point when the executive order goes away, we're going to get back on our regular schedule. And now there might be a whole bunch of people that aren't able to get caught up quickly enough. So it can be a difficult cycle to break.
I agree. At any rate, I don't, do we need to do a motion that we
Nope.
accept this, or?
You can,
or-
you just
What
want to
is
follow
our
along
step?
with the executive order. It probably wouldn't hurt to have the, the governing body of the town, agree that this is the process that we're going to follow, like we did in the first stage.
Well, I guess, it could, Donna, could you scroll it back up, please?
Chairman Larson, it's pretty much right here that
Oh, okay.
I think you just need to concur that you want to continue with the same decision as you did before with the deferment. The only time you would need to submit anything different to the state is if you were going to change that. So
Okay, so that it would be this executive order 7S?
Yeah, just a simple motion that you are continuing as previously decided.
Okay,
We're-
then, make a motion that, based on the governor's executive order 7S, that we, the town of Hebron, will abide by that policy. Does that
Excuse me,
cover it?
Chairman Lawson, shouldn't we add that we will continue with the deferment program?
Okay. Do that as a friendly amendment, or a yes? So that we will continue the deferment program as based under the governor's executive order 7S. Does that satisfy, you think, Gail or Peter or anybody?
It makes sense.
Yeah, that goes along with what Donna was saying, yeah.
Okay. So that being the, motion. Peter,
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail,
Gail Richmond, aye.
John,
Don Collins, aye.
Mark,
Mark Rivera, aye.
and myself, Dan Larson, aye.
Thank you very much, everybody. The next is item 6 on the agenda would be the town manager's report, which we just did those 2 items under. So some of the stuff that we've been working on in the town hall, it's been a busy week. We got the bids in for the sewer project, so they'll be getting calculated and reviewed. And then we'll have a short list that'll come back to the board of selectmen, probably the next meeting. Danny, as you know, we've been very busy working on the updated AHM agreement that we're going to be talking about later in this meeting. It seems, with the COVID going on, it's just, this is a town manager's report. I just want to tell you what a lot of our time is working on. But it seems more prevalent that we're spending a lot of times with neighbor disputes. People calling the town about something that they're not happy with their neighbors. So we've been spending, not only my office, but planning and zoning and a couple other the offices, we've been spending a lot of time. Seems more time on that than usual. I don't know if it's the times or what, but it takes up a lot of the office's time.
Mr. Chairman, excuse me.
Yes.
Andy, could you just give me like an example of like what's a neighbor dispute? I mean, like your tree fell on my lawn. I mean, what? Give me just a couple of examples if you. I'm just curious.
Like if somebody's burning in the backyard, or
Okay.
Somebody's
dog-
having a campfire and they're sitting around the campfire, the neighbors feel aggrieved by it.
Okay, so things that you wouldn't normally, you're not calling the police, you're just calling to complain that I don't like what my neighbor's doing.
Yeah, they're looking for the town to get in the middle of the dispute.
Okay.
I'm sure some of you might be aware, there's a big one going on down about the Salmon River and the Grayville Park area about the trails. DEEP is considering possibly closure of that trailhead. And there's a lot of mountain bikers that feel strongly that that should remain. So we're trying, I'm not getting too much involved in that. That's probably more political for you people, but there's been a lot of letters written and a lot of calls and emails to both the Parks and Rec, myself, trying to, either for or against. And, we've got, that involves the planner, involves the Parks and Rec director, involves the Public Works director. So we've been just kind of dealing with that kind of stuff.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just to follow with that, I've gotten complaints about that because it's in my neighborhood. And I have to say, I don't understand. We just bought a bunch of property there. And that's a trailhead to that property. That gives us access to that property. So I'm kind of questioning that too. I don't understand why they would close that. But
The area that they're talking about is at the very end of Grayville Road, where you cross over that bridge.
yeah, there's a
state forest. Beyond that, headed over to Burroughs Hill.
There's a historic road that goes back to the 1700s that was closed, but it now is a trail. But also there's the trail along the river that has it's an incredible trail. But we just bought all that property for people to go up it, and so they want to close that parking spot right there. And it's used. I don't understand that really. I mean, I don't know. So
Yeah, I was surprised to hear it too. So we'll just see how that unfolds. There were some claims made to DEEP that they were making ghost trails or going off the main trails and affecting the habitat out there. So I don't have any knowledge of whether that's true or not.
I think it would be prudent to actually talk to a DEP or a DEEP representative to find out exactly what the actual story is. This is the first I've heard about it. I do know that bridge has had contention forever, back during Robert Lee's time, because there's a house over there and there's just been a lot of issues off and on over the decades with access into that property. But this is the first I heard that this is coming up again. So it'd be nice to have some more input, especially if we're going to have to make any kind of a decision on it. I don't know if we do or, it would at least be nice for someone to apprise us of what the considerations are.
We're working with them. I have Rich Calarco spearheading that. He's been in communications with the person from DEEP, and he can come back with a report. I can get that for the next meeting.
We have to follow up on that. I wouldn't want to see that access to that property lost. And I know the area down there because I knew someone down that road, so.
well, who has jurisdiction over the parking lot there? Would that be us, or who has jurisdiction over the road?
We own the actual road, even the bridge. But once you get on the other side of the bridge, where that trail starts off to the right, that turns into state property. We abandoned that road, so.
So they wouldn't have. I mean, the parking lot serves there's that property that we just bought, and it's not state property. So it goes along that historic. There's a historic mill right there, and that property is not even talking about the state property, which you can access actually on Hope Valley Road.
Right.
But the property that we just bought is accessed by that parking lot. And like I said, it's an amazing. If I encourage anybody to go up it because it's an amazing walk. It's really lovely. But all right.
Hopefully more information to follow.
Yeah, I'll have Rich on it. I'll tell Rich to do a small report on that and we'll send it out.
Thank you.
Dan, could I follow up with that?
Yes.
And support Andy? Andy, you still getting a lot of complaints about Grayville Road? Is that related to what we're talking about, or is that a different portion of our property or access to trails?
No, you hit it on the head. It's the resident that lives there in
Okay.
conflict with the bikers, and they've probably complained enough to deep where they got somebody to listen. So I think that's exactly what's going on. Another one of those neighbor or association disputes that we've been dealing with, like I just talked about prior to.
So Dan and members, Andy's sent us out there. I can't tell you how many times they've called or called the police or called Andy. In addition, in supporting Andy on some of this, you get complaints about zoning. Somebody's doing something on their property they're not supposed to be doing. They have trucks or vehicles or things that they're storing there that they're not supposed to. Building code things, you name it, and it comes in. I've been there when those have come in, and Andy and I have discussed some of them, and I don't want to mention any names or anything, but it does get to be that. Would you say, Andy, like the same 5 to 8 people generate 50% of the complaints or more?
Yeah, well, we got some new ones lately. That's why it's probably got
Okay.
busier.
So just to throw that out there, Dan, because
I've heard of some of them regarding, campfires and that kind of thing where, people think it's wrong. I think probably a lot of it, people used to go to work and they weren't around. Now they're around all the time and, everybody's around. So all of a sudden, everybody sees everything and everybody else. And I don't know.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just reach out to Nick Levine. I got a text message that they lost the feed for the CVC channel. So I don't know if that's something you can check on.
Okay, now, oh. Okay,
Nick's on the meeting here. I don't know if he heard us or not. He may not be right in front of his screen.
I see his box.
Yeah.
Say he lost the feed?
Yeah, Nick Wallach just texted me that he lost the feed. He was watching the movie on CBC and it went out.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just finalize this. I know I know the houses up there, and they're across the river, and they have this nice private place, and it must irritate people when they have hikers going through there. But that's public land. That's public land. What are you going to do? And we've encouraged people to use our resources. We can't let people, just because they complain, take away the rights of other people.
Good point, John.
I don't disagree.
We all agree with that.
Well, anyways, that's my feeling. I know exactly. I've looked at that house. I thought, geez, that's a great place. Too bad it's right next to public land. But it is. It's what we bought.
Public land was there a lot of years.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, okay, moving on.
Okay. So this is a busy time with the CIP budgets. Been working with a few of the departments so far. We're going to continue with that, and also working with the new superintendent on his requests. So we'll be finalizing that in the next couple of weeks, and be bringing that in front of the Board of Selectmen. I've also this week was working with the EDC on the RFP for a new person or company or a combination of two. And we also brought in Diane Nadeau from the Chamber of Commerce to see if there's more stuff they could do for our businesses and help us out, and even let them look at what we're looking to do. There might be a portion where they could possibly assist. So we had those meetings this week. Also working on the grants, the senior center grant for a possible minivan with a lift got approved. So now that will be coming in front of you guys. You guys would have to approve the town's match. I think it's an 80% grant, but we heard about it sooner than we thought. So we'll be compiling that and getting that to you probably next meeting as well. Been very busy with the Chatham Health District doing the audit. We're working on the budget. And then we're going to have a public hearing on that budget in the month of January. So that's where we are with that. The other thing that's keeping us very busy with the Chatham Health District is the vaccine. So we're updating our pandemic plan. I think the areas that we're going to distribute spelled out in the plan was Portland and Colchester. But once again, we're dealing with the state. And the big question is who, when, where? Who's going to get it first? You know, where and when. So they still haven't finalized that for us. We're going to try to get our, the school people and the front responders first. We've submitted the list 3 times of our people that fall into that category, and we're still waiting to hear back. But the decision's been made. Whoever, if Wyndham Hospital calls and says, hey, we have vaccines for your first responders, we're going to go there. If Middlesex Hospital calls, we're going to go there. Or if we get them at the Chatham Health District, then we're going to go there. Or if CVS or Walgreens has them and we can go get them, we're going to go get them there. So we're trying to get the times and the deliveries finalized so we can come up and finalize our plan to get our people vaccinated as soon as possible. So that's a day-by-day conversation at this point. We had the snowstorm, which everybody knows, is very familiar with. For the most part, the guys did okay. We had 3 trucks go down. One was a spare truck, but things happen. We'll get those fixed, but for the most part, we did a good job. We'll continue to clear it up with a lot of snow.
For supposedly a light, fluffy snow, as soon as you took it off the road, it turned instantly to ice, literally.
Yeah.
As soon as it caught air, it freeze. So it just made it really tough plowing.
Yep.
Do you put down salt even if there's going to be a lot of snow?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
The rationale for that is it's supposed to create a barrier between the frozen precipitation and the actual asphalt of the road. So when a lot of snow gets on there, when you clear it off, it should be underneath it so it doesn't stick. Almost like putting Pam on a pan. It's supposed to clear right down the blacktop is at least the theory.
Cool.
We don't use the liquid stuff like the state does, though, correct?
No, we don't do that. Also, my office has been working with the job descriptions for the fire chief, and I've been working with the Parks and Rec, finalizing the new Parks and Rec director's job description as well. We are looking for a new fire maintainer. One of our 2 fire maintainers is leaving, so we'll be posting that as soon as we can. Going to another bigger town. And then I don't see our liaison on it, but we're working with finance. I know the Board of Finance wants to have a joint meeting in January. So we're putting a mid-year analysis together on where we are for this year to show the expenses. We have the COVID expenses broken out and just an overall health check on where we are. And we'll probably at that point in time be looking to submit or implement a soft freeze for the town. Not that we're in any trouble. I don't believe we are. I think we're still, where we should be, but we don't know what's coming down the pipe. So that's what we've been working on.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, we normally do that every year in January, mid-year. We always try to test the waters and see, how we're doing halfway through. So the Board of Finance was proactive. Elaine met with them last week and I had suggested that. So they want to have a joint meeting with the Board of, and I'm not sure, maybe the schools as well. In talking with the superintendent of the Hebron Elementary Schools, he doesn't seem to think that he's in that bad a shape either with some of the funding that he got to offset the COVID safety measures that he had to, put into the school. So that's good news. I was more worried about the schools than us, but he seems to think that he's where he needs to be right now too. So we'll see. And that's all I had. That was a lot. Even though it's winter and dealing with storms, it's busy in the office. That's for sure.
Andy, could I ask a quick question?
Of course.
I noticed in correspondence, there's a thing from Connecticut Water that they're looking for a price increase through Pura. I don't know. It just kind of bit me wrong how we've bent over backwards trying to find them locations for wells and everything else so they could meet the water requirements for the town. And yeah, I don't know. I just wonder if you've had any discussions or communications with them on this.
It's funny you bring it up. We're going to have them come in. I'm going to meet with them with Michael Leary, but this is throughout the state. They're going up on all their customers. It's a rate increase in front of Pura. You're right. And they're governed by Pura. So if they can justify what they're doing and the cost increase, I think Pura will approve it. So I'm not sure there's anything we can do about it. I do agree with you. It's, when I saw it, I had the same feeling you did.
I don't know. It just seems like a kind of a slap in the face, or I don't know. Maybe I just get too sensitive. I don't know. I don't know if anybody else had any other comments before we moved on with that.
Aren't they owned by Eversource? And that seems to be their business model.
You very well may be right. I honestly don't know.
That was just a snarky comment. Sorry.
No, you may be right. I honestly don't know. And I know Eversource is going back for a rate increase again.
A huge one.
Bite our lips.
Okay.
Be interested to see what the meeting comes up.
I know Dory's here too. Nick also said he lost the Facebook feed as well. So I don't know what's just making that known. Okay, Mr. Chairman, next on the agenda is the update on the COVID-19 long-term recovery in the town departments and school reentry reopening. So not much has changed on the town side. We remain to have the town hall closed to the public, but by appointment only. That seems to be working, well as best it can for the most part. We haven't really seen too many complaints. We do have quite a people, coming to the town hall, knocking on the door, and we do what we can to service them. So I think we're moving along. The new news is, of course, the elementary schools, and I talk to both superintendents regularly. And the elementary school had a case that made them decide to close right up until the holiday break. So that kind of aligns more with what Ram's doing. So I think that might help out some of the families with multiple kids, but they have different criterias of, when they close the elementary schools and the high schools. So they keep telling me it's not uncommon to have elementary schools open and high schools remote learning. So every time they do that, I talk with them to make sure that we're doing what's best for the kids in schools and the community. And then they move forward with the plan. I know Mark's involved in that as well. I don't know if there's any questions regarding that.
It is what it is. It's tough on the kids. It's so disruptive in their days. They don't know week to week what mode they're going to be working in, and people are social creatures, and it's affecting them. I don't know, Gail, I know you've been in education. You have anything you want to add on that, or?
I've said it before when we've talked about it. There's, if you tell high school kids, as Mark will say, they are party animals. They expect to go out and do things. And so as much as you break up their gatherings, they're going to do them again. And the little ones are not learning the interactive social skills that they should be learning in preschool, kindergarten, but first graders. That's when they learn to give and take, and that's what they're losing. But I'm very concerned about the special ed kids.
Now, the superintendent at the elementary school said they do have about 8 students coming to school to meet their needs. I'm not sure if that's special ed
Those
or
are the
not.
special ed ones, I think.
It is, I know, one of those, and it is a special ed youngster.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
next on the agenda is 7B. That's the update on the Hebron is open for business task force.
Good. Peter Casper, I'll give an update. We had talked about the Taste of Hebron as an opportunity to promote our local restaurants. In that event, we have postponed, frankly, due to a lack of engagement by the restaurants themselves. And so we have to reconsider whether or not the timing was bad, but we're going to take another run at it, another attempt to engage the restaurants in probably the middle of January. And if not, that may be an event that, albeit well thought out, I think, in terms of an opportunity, we're just having a hard time connecting with our restaurant owners and getting their level of interest, even getting them to respond. So that's been disappointing. But again, we serve at the pleasure of the businesses trying to help. So if they don't think that's something that can help, then we'll assess that. So that's been delayed. And we've notified them as such. We are going to reach out, and Andy mentioned earlier in terms of a connection with Diane Nadu. We're going to reach out to Diane and see if we can brainstorm a little bit regarding the chamber and what they may have seen as opportunities for in her dealings with the different areas. And so we're going to reach out to her and see if we can get some new ideas. And also we'll be focusing our next meeting on highlighting, probably working a little more closely with AHM and some of the wellness initiatives and how we can maybe think about that for our broader community. Again, that we reach out to as part of this whole effort. So we're going to continue to work on that. And then at some point I do, and I'll bring it up the next meeting, but at some point I will ask the board's perspective on the time in which we should continue to do this, because as by definition, a task force has a shelf life, so to speak. And so at some point, as we finish the year and get into January, I think we ought to at least discuss what you guys think and get some discussion around what we've done and what we're doing and how long you want us to continue to do it, just so we keep within the spirit of a defined definition of a task force shelf life. So that's something that I think maybe we could talk about in January sometime. That's what I have.
Hey, Peter, did I see somebody who was doing a virtual food court? Is that for Hebron or someplace else? No?
I don't know. I'm not aware of it, John.
Would that be an interesting possibility, is to have all the restaurants at one website where you could just go and see what you want?
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of stuff that we are hoping to get in terms of an idea exchange. And so we had this idea about Taste of Hebron and working it through RAM and getting the kids involved and all that. But if you have as a restaurant owner, another idea that you think might resonate or help promote your business, especially for those that have had some uptick during the summer with outdoor dining, but now don't have that anymore. We're looking for ideas, and the hope was what we could generate some dialogue and explore those kind of ideas. And we've reached out, and through Donna's efforts and all of our efforts on the task force, have reached out a number of different times to invite them to meetings. We've had meetings scheduled and no one's attended. And so I'm looking for ideas, because again, it's about them. It's about helping them and promoting them. It's not, there's no benefit for me to have a taste of Hebron. It's really about if that can work for them, great. And if you have another idea like what you're talking about, John, then let's brainstorm there. And I see Mark pop up, and Jess is always in attendance, so she's all for it. But we could have a taste of something simple, but it feels like we should have a couple more restaurants involved. So we're continuing to sort of brainstorm, but I would love an exchange with the restaurants in terms of, well, how can we help? Is there anything even small, whether it's communication, whether it's just connection, whether it's promoting them more on Facebook, whatever it is. Even like Facebook as an example, not to end it here, but we have almost 600 members of our Facebook group dedicated to the Hebron Open for Business, and there's a lot of good content on there, and every one of those restaurants could use that, and something simple does, but the other restaurants don't use it very often, and it's only for them. And so, like, why aren't you putting out content? Why aren't you putting out specials? Why aren't you? It would just take a couple of seconds,
Before I forget this, we try to do takeout in Hebron once a week, and I was thinking, that's a lot like I grew up Catholic, and we used to have fish every week or something.
Fridays, yeah.
Yeah.
So, maybe we should have something like a campaign that we have people, go to the virtual food court at least once a week, like I don't know. Maybe the Hebron should do takeout once a week,
Well, yeah, no, down in my house, we've instituted the kids make fun of me, but I call it, takeout Friday. So no matter, and we're home all week, but takeout Friday, you're going to order something from, I try to, I got to keep convincing them to go to Hebron because they want to go to, somewhere else. But, we're going to do takeout Fridays, and we did pizza locally last week. But we're trying to do something just like that, just to force us to sort of to do that rather than not. And so,
So have people do that. Choose a day and make it your day for takeout.
Yeah, good. All right, so yeah, we need some more ideas like that. So Tuesdays 5:30, brother, in case you're not doing anything. You know what I mean? Come to the meeting. But we're not meeting again until the 12th of January, so you have time to sort of build up your courage to join us.
Yeah.
Peter, I know Jessica appreciates you, and things are looking up a little bit because maybe the PPP's coming back. So we were thinking about maybe taking a month off and closing, but it looks promising to maybe try to stay open over the winter.
Great.
And hopefully they'll clean up some of the things that happened last time, like 5% of businesses getting 50% of all the PPP. I mean, Joel Osteen got $4 million at his church. So, I mean, how those things even happen, I don't know. But as you look into it and you keep up with it, you notice all the improprieties that take place and the number of people that are getting $1 million, and it's not small business. So they've vowed to clean that up. And I don't know if you guys also knew, but you apply to a bank to get it. You're not even really going through maybe too, Dan, you apply to a bank to get it and you're at their whim. It's not even the government, and they make up their own rules or they don't know the rules. So
exactly. And they make it, for small business who don't have an army of accountants and secretarial staff, it was daunting, point blank. Dennis's wife, actually did a lot of the footwork for our company, because you just looked at it and the stuff they wanted. It's just, we were going back and forth with the accountant, and he's like, I have other jobs besides trying to take care of yours. And they did a great job, but it was not an easy process.
not even close, Dan.
Okay, moving
Thank
on.
you. Yes, sir.
Okay. Next is item 7C, I believe. It's the adopt resolution for the steep grant for the Wall Street sidewalks. So this is something the Board of Selectmen approved to apply for. We got the grant. And now this is a formality, a part of the grant. You have to do a resolution. It's kind of time sensitive. Once again, this was supposed to be approved by the Board of Selectmen and then back to OPM, or the, Department of Economic and Community Development by the 9th. So I sent them a note and said we were meeting tonight at 17th. They did finally get back to me and said that would be okay. Once again, this is for the sidewalks that we budgeted, and then we applied for the grant because it fit the criteria, so we got the grant. But no work will be started until we work with SHPO to identify any historic properties along that design route, because it was brought to our attention there's possibly some historic significance there. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. This is a formality. We need to do this tonight. And this we already approved the grant, we already got the money, but I got to get this done. So if you're so kind to approve that, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Does somebody want to read this?
I'll read
Hearing
it.
nobody jumping forward.
Isn't there like a summary? Do
Resolution
you have to go through the whole thing?
We actually have to read the
Yes.
whole thing, don't we?
Yep.
Every word.
All right.
Resolution authorizing steep grant application for Wall Street sidewalks. Whereas on March 10th, 2020, the governor of the state of Connecticut, declared a public health emergency and civil preparedness emergency of the state of Connecticut pursuant to Connecticut General Statutes sections 19-A-131 and 28-9 in response to the global pandemic of COVID-19 disease associated with the novel coronavirus that is currently affecting multiple countries and states. And whereas on March 13th, 2020, the President of the United States declared a national emergency to combat the coronavirus that is currently infecting the population of the United States. And whereas the effects of the transmission of COVID-19 has resulted in the spread of infections in Connecticut and throughout the country, as well as resulting in shortages of personal protective equipment and other supplies that could jeopardize public safety and civil preparedness. And whereas in response to the issuance of declarations of a public health emergency and civil preparedness emergency by the governor, he has issued a series of executive orders setting for the law governing the conduct of the business of state and municipal government during the period of the emergency. And whereas on March 21st, 2020, the governor issued Executive Order 71, parentheses EO 71, paragraph 13, of which dispenses with any in-person voting requirements, including referenda and town meetings requiring in-person votes. And whereas on May 6th, 2020, the governor issued Executive Order 7JJ, parentheses EO 7JJ, paragraph 4, which allows the Board of Selectmen to act on certain time-sensitive municipal matters, even if the town charter calls for a town meeting action, including actions deemed essential, including approval or entering into contracts and approval to acquire, transfer, lease, dispose of, or sell any real property or interest therein without complying with any requirements for in-person approval by electors or taxpayers, provided the Board of Selectmen complies with the open meeting requirements set forth in Executive Order number 7B. And whereas on November 9th, 2020, the governor issued Executive Order number 9L, parentheses EO 9L, extending all executive orders declared on March 10th, 2020, including EO 71 and EO 7JJ, to February 9th, 2021, and whereas pursuant to the Connecticut General Statutes, Section 4-66, the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development is authorized to extend financial assistance for economic development projects. And whereas there is a significant public health and safety interest in the town of Hebron implementing the Wall Street Ram High School Sidewalk Plan, parentheses, the plan, to install sidewalks in the vicinity of the Region 8 high school and middle school campus. And whereas state financial assistance is essential to proceed with the plan, and need to scroll up, the town of Hebron seeks to make an application to the state for $128,200 in order to undertake the Wall Street Ram High School Sidewalk Plan and to execute and assistance agreement, and whereas the town of Hebron would suffer significant final loss if unable to make application prior to the pending deadline. Whereas in the interest of public health and safety, the plan should be completed as soon as possible. Whereas based on these findings, there is a need to act immediately during the period of public health emergency that precludes the holding of an in-person town meeting. Now, therefore, in accordance with the powers vested in it pursuant to paragraph 4 of Executive Order 7JJ, the Board of Selectmen hereby resolves, 1, that it is cognizant of the conditions and prerequisites for the state financial assistance imposed by Connecticut General Statutes 4-66. 2, that the filing of an application for state financial assistance by the town of Hebron in the amount not to exceed $128,200 is hereby approved, and that Andrew J. Tierney, town manager, is directed to execute and file such application with the Connecticut Department of Economic and Community Development to provide such additional information, to execute such other documents as may be required to execute an assistance agreement with the state of Connecticut for state financial assistance, and if such an agreement is offered, to execute any amendments, decisions, and revisions thereto, and to act as the authorized representative of the town of Hebron. In testimony whereof, we hereunto set our hand and cause the seal of the town of Hebron to be affixed the 17th day of December 2020. Hebron town, the town of Hebron Board of Selectmen. And then it goes down to list us. Daniel Larson. Need to scroll. Thank you. Gail B. Richmond, John B. Collins, Peter D. Casper. Need to scroll.
Mark Rivera.
Mark Rivera. I figured P. I didn't know the P.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
should be noted that my name is spelt wrong.
And one other correction, in addition to Gail Richmond's name, in the second whereas on this page, whereas the town of Hebron would suffer significant, it should be financial loss.
I thought so, but I wasn't going to change it because it just read wrong, but
Yeah, that should be final should be financial.
okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So with those two modifications, any discussion? Hearing none. Peter,
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail,
Gail Richmond, aye.
John,
John Collins, aye.
and Mark.
Mark P. Rivera, aye.
And the P is for what, Peter?
Yeah, it is, Dan, you're right, Peter.
Audrey.
Yeah, and myself, Dan Larson, aye. Okay.
Thank you very much. That's important. That's money that we weren't anticipating and we got for that project. So that's good. That's a good move. Next is 8A. And this is that AHM agreement. It's a local government cooperative venture agreement between Andover, Hebron, Marlboro Youth and Family Services, AKA AHM Youth and Family Services, Inc., in the towns of Andover, Hebron, Marlboro, and Connecticut. And attached is a proposed agreement. Finishing touches are being worked on, and the agreement will be presented for approval by the Board of Selectmen in the near future. But we wanted to show you, just they wanted us to bring it to all the governing bodies, they being the board at AHM. They have reworked this for a couple of reasons. This first part that you're seeing here is to give the towns a little bit more control of the budgetary process, and the money will be coming from the towns to AHM. The other thing is they've kind of diversed over the years and the budget and the formula that they're using presently really doesn't echo their services. They're now dealing with preschool, that prior to the elementary schools and high schools, and then also adults and then senior citizens as well. So they have a vast area that they cover, or people that they cover, ages that they cover, and they want this to be more aligned with the services they provide and the budget to support that. The formula just on RAM itself wasn't really, an accurate reflection, and it came into question. So this is, I don't know if anybody had a chance to read through it. It's kind of hard for me to explain the whole thing, but Danny, you were involved. We met with Steve Fish, who's the chairman of the AHM board, and went through it. And this was looked at by Mr. Connors, Attorney Connors, and also our attorney had previewed this to make sure that there's nothing that would, cause any harm or changes that would affect us in a negative manner. So I'll give you the floor.
I was going to say, now this, I believe, is still planned on being discussed and hopefully accepted on the 22nd.
Yes, this portion, yep.
Correct. So this is the basic outline. What you saw in yellow was the changes. Everything does make a lot of sense. There was one section that we did have some discussion on, and that is going to be as an addendum. And it's basically the financial formula. But that being said, we should, I feel, at least pass this section so that I myself and I can't think it was Mel can vote on it, because he is the representative from the Board of Finance, and I'm the representative from the Board of Selectmen. They've put a lot of work into it. As I say, it's a very positive document, and it far more accurately reflects all of the different areas that AHM is serving in our communities. Also, that being said, there's a lot of things in here that they do for the dollars that for the services, or the dollars versus the services that they provide our towns, plural residents. It's really a financial winner for all the communities. So I don't know, does anybody have any questions? Yes, Pete.
Yeah, Pete Casper. I was just taking some notes from the Board of Finance, and you talked about that addendum, because they talked about the AHM agreement as well during that meeting, and Mal was talking about providing an update. And I took a note, and maybe this is related to this addendum you're speaking of. There was some needed additional clarification or discussion around the new formula and the calculation based on population. Did I remember that correctly? Or am I misunderstanding that? There was some concerns about the calculation.
That is correct, and I can let Andy also address it. But they used to use the RAM formula, what was called the RAM formula, and that was used for years. But it doesn't totally accurately reflect it, like it didn't get into pre-primary assistance, which AHM does. It didn't get into assistance from people who are no longer in school but are still within that age group. That
so the concern was how it was done prior, not needing to still work the new formula. The concern was in looking back that it didn't properly account for
it did not properly address.
So there isn't a concern with the new formula. It's just recognizing that the formula had to be updated to reflect the scope of their services across the. Okay, I didn't know if it was.
That's going to be done in an addendum, and I'll let Andy talk to it also if he would like.
I got you. No, I heard that part. I wasn't sure if it was a concern going forward or was it simply an update to what a concern was looking back. But now that's clear. Okay.
You're right, Peter. There was both. We had Mel in this week at the meeting that Danny attended with Steve Fish. So quite frankly, they're going to use a couple different census numbers and come up with an average. So it's going to be, I think it's correct numbers. They're still going to use a portion of the formula and then something else that'll be spelled out. And then they're going to average that out. So it's more direct of what they do. Because right now, just using the RAM formula doesn't really coincide. So there was clarity that was needed. We had Mel come in. Danny was with me. We sat down with Tressa and virtually with Steve, and they discussed it. And Mel said he was good and he's willing to approve this moving forward. And Dan, you were there.
Yes. Yeah, so as I say, this is definitely, it's a positive document. You know, and I really would hope that the board would give their approval for us to go forward with this. It's actually going to be a meeting on the 22nd. I do not remember the time. It's in the afternoon. We're going to discuss that, hopefully get this portion of it put to bed and start on the financial piece. And again, the reason that they're working on that so rapidly is that trying to have it ready so as the towns start meeting for their budget deliberations, these numbers will be there. So it is somewhat time sensitive. Does anybody else have any other questions that hopefully we can answer?
I'd like to make a comment, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I think AHM, watching it over the years, is such a great asset for our 3 towns. We need to provide those services, and if we had to pay for them individually ourselves, it would be a lot of money. The juvenile review board that they do, you must have one, and that alone would cost us money. So they're expanding out now what they're covering, what folks they'll see for counseling, and I think that's good.
Thank you. Mark, John?
Yeah, Dan, I was going to support Gail. I'm on the juvenile review board, and the good that does is immeasurable for giving kids a second chance and having an avenue instead of sending a kid to juvenile court. And you know, I'm such a great fan of everything that they do. I think I'm with Gail. It's a no-brainer to use them. Even if we had to pay for them ourselves, we probably couldn't do as good a job as they do. I'm in support of anything that we need to do to keep them going.
Thank you.
And I
John?
totally agree with Gail and Mark. It's AHM. The way they do it, it's so positive. It's so good for the community, and you know, it's an example of how, you know, intertown organizations can work. Maybe a blueprint for the future.
Amen.
Okay, with that being said, I'm going to take it that everybody is in the affirmative for me to say that the Board of Selectmen agree with this document. And the next step, of course, will be the addendum, which actually gets into the actual nuts and bolts on the actual financial portion of it.
Good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey,
Mr. Chairman, next, I believe, is the draft agenda
okay.
for January 7th, 2021.
Well, again, if anybody has anything for the start of next year, bring it on. Okay, moving on. Our consent agenda. We have two sets of minutes, and then the tax refunds as you see there. I'll make the motion. We can discuss it. Move the Hebron Board of Selectmen to approve the following consent agenda items and motions contained therein as if individually adopted. And we have the November 19th, 2020 regular meeting and the December 3rd, 2020 regular meeting. My only question on the November 19th, it looks like there was two sets of minutes, and I'm
Mm,
just trying to ascertain, am I missing something?
I think Donna can speak to that. I think there was a correction that was made.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else that they want to discuss on those? Hearing none, all in favor of the consent agenda? Peter,
Peter Casper, aye.
Gail,
Gail Richmond, aye.
John,
John Collins, aye.
Mark,
Mark Rivera, aye.
P. Rivera.
Right.
I digress. And myself, Dan Larson, aye. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Liaison reports. Mark? Mark, you're on mute.
There we go. Just kind of supporting Andy and coordination between the schools. I know the superintendents have been working on that. Andy's been working on that. It seems like everything that is being discussed now is related to COVID, when to open, when not to open. Even Superintendent Leslie's on quarantine now. There's cases within the offices. So it's tough. I think the kids are doing pretty well with at least having the virtual every day. They're used to it. This was of interest to me because I was talking to the athletic director the other day, and they're having practice for sports, 4 kids at a time in the middle school, in the high school for basketball. There's pressure to do things, even sometimes when it's dangerous. So basically, these are the things that are being discussed right now. The board has been approving things to make things safer, and which is kind of bizarre is there's some extra money because there hasn't been money spent on athletics and other endeavors. So that's been thrown into the COVID precautions. So I guess that's kind of a good thing. And we're starting to upgrade security and get some more cameras, get some remote access to the doors so somebody doesn't have to be right at the door and see them on a camera and let people in. So basically, those are the things that we've been doing and the board has been discussing. Jessica's writing, and the superintendent search has started, and they've hired a company to get on with that. So I don't think Scott Leslie can continue after 1 year due to state regulations. So after 1 year, I think they're going to have to go out there and find somebody unless there's some hardship. That's the only way that Mr. Leslie would be able to stay on a second year. And that completes what I have to say.
Thank you. That actually is pretty sad that Scott can't continue, but
Yeah, I agree with you. A lot of people agree with you.
So I get the interim step, Mark, but why couldn't he just be hired as a superintendent? He doesn't have the qualifications?
Right, he doesn't have he has an 092 for administration, but there's a different qualification to be a superintendent. And I think it requires almost a year of work, Pete. So at this stage of his career, he doesn't want to do that.
Sure,
He
okay.
was hoping for an exception.
As there should be, but
Yeah,
okay.
especially with what's going on now.
Yeah,
To bring somebody new in with everything that's going on, doesn't seem like a smart idea, Pete.
thank you.
sadly, here again, we are stricken with, a set of rules that does not take the individual into account. And looking back, when we hired Andy, there were people that point blank said, oh, he doesn't have this or he doesn't have that. Now he has all of that documentation. But, I feel we made the most prudent, good move for the town of Hebron that could be made. And I also remember people that had all of the certifications in the world who basically didn't help Hebron a lot. I'll quit at that.
Yeah,
So that's a state issue, Mark, not a RAM issue. It's a state issue then. That we have to-
correct.
Yep, Peter, that is, the state requires, when you, like I had my administrative certification that Mark was talking about, I would have had to have a lot more schooling, like to get superintendents. Didn't want that headache, but, so that's coming from the state. He has to have the certification, and in order to serve more than a year. Because I agree. We don't want someone new when we have somebody that's working out. He's an asset.
Dan, to make it even more frustrating for you, if he retired, he could come back without his superintendent's certificate and work for a year or two. But
Yeah,
he
do it
doesn't
all
want,
over.
it's
Yeah.
crazy, but he doesn't want to give up, the extra couple of years of contributing to his pension. So he's going to go back to the principalship. So the whole thing is bizarre. The board's frustrated with that. They tried to find some exemption for him.
We shouldn't have to play these kind of stupid shell games. And that's what it boils
True.
down to. I'll quit. I'll quit. Gail.
Okay, Andy told you about the van at the senior center. That's a minivan. You might remember when we approved Sharon applying for that. Because they don't always need the big bus, but they need something that's wheelchair accessible with the lift. So that's what she, very early, will find that she was one of the 50 in the state chosen for that. Douglas Library, we met last Monday, the 14th. And last week there was 2 virtual presentations. I had signed up for one, and more will be planned. And as the library is closed, curbside pickup continues. The Hebron Board of Ed met last week on December 10th, and they had to have elections. So Heather Pettit was reelected chair, and Chris Aker was reelected vice chair, and Keith Pettit was elected secretary.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Going down the list, Peter.
Board of Finance met on the 10th, and speaking of the aforementioned Scott Leslie, he was kind enough to join that meeting with Kathleen Goodwin from the RAM board to give the Board of Finance an update on the new pending RAM teachers contract. So we went through that in quite a bit of detail, and to get the board up to speed on that, and at the trying to address some of the issues. And ultimately, it's a 1-year contract rather than a 3-year contract, and a 3.63% is the total contract increase. So it was a proposal that the teachers made, and so there was generally some consensus that it was a really positive move overall. But they came on to present that in some detail. Val talked about the lead remediation project, so we got an update on that. Some of the details on that. Again, another very good job of getting that resolved relative to the financing component of it as well. They did spend some time talking about AHM and the agreement there, and obviously that's already been covered earlier in our meeting. Parks and Rec met on the 7th, and they they voted on new officers and their calendar, and so Ken will continue as the chair of that board. And then they did a whole series of other elections, talked about the recreation update with virtual programs continuing, but prep continues to be shut down, which is a financial problem, and spent some time talking about some of the challenges associated with the basketball program, and then a good part of the balance of the meeting was spent going through some of the details of prepping for their budget. That's my update.
Thank you. John?
So racial justice and equity, we met, and we just have a really good committee. I have to say, it's funny, you meet these people and they're just so talented and smart. There's a couple of things that we're doing, and we went through Hebron history and demographics last week. This week we went through Metro Hartford history and demographics, which is really interesting. Mark P. Robera gave us an update of Ram's demographics, and it turns out Ram is almost 10% Hispanic now, which is interesting. It kind of gives an idea of the direction of the three towns, Hebron included. Our next meeting, we'll be talking about laws and regulations that might have affected demographics now and in the past. And then we completed a survey. So we have a survey that will be going out in January to all the Hebron residents to give their sense of what they think of the community and what's positive and negative. I'm really encouraged and also looking forward to that. I just think this is a 2 or 3 month endeavor, but I think we should at some point start thinking about, well, when we get the results from the survey, it's going to be demographics, it's going to be all sorts of things. I think it's going to be really interesting, but just start visioning for the future, not just on this thing, but also on where the town's going, because the town is changing as we speak. I mean, people are buying houses and new people are coming in, and the country's changing. We're going through these crises, and something good's going to come out of all of this stuff, and something good in Hebron can come out of it too. And we just need to be prepared. But so all good stuff. Amazing people in this town. Keep on meeting them, and yeah. So that's that.
Okay.
You're working hard, John. Good job.
Well, you're working hard too. You did a great job last week or yesterday. A couple
I
days.
didn't expect there'd be so much homework, John.
Are these meetings listed as the time and date?
Yes.
People can watch?
Yes. We want people to come. Come, please. Come and listen.
Okay. Where is that information? Is it on the town website? It must be.
Well, it should be. We have noticed them, and I send an agenda out each week, and the Zoom info is all there.
Okay, thank you.
Lars, there is a section under the agendas and minutes section on our website. There's a new section for this committee. The agendas are posted there, and the live links to the meeting access are there.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Okay. Andy.
Okay, so they finished the punch list of items left for the RAM campus improvements. So now the fun part of closing it out with the state and the audit and the financials review is going to start. But the project itself was successful, came in pretty close to budget. I think the school's happy, the committee up there is happy, and I think it is a safer place. I mean, Mark can also chime in on that. And then other than that, like I said, under the WPCA, we'll be bringing that information to the Board of Selectmen. I think probably the next meeting to go over the bids.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. With me, I've got nothing new in the fire department. I know they were doing taking Santa Claus around the town. One day, I think, got rained out. As for Hebron Historic Properties. I'm hoping that they're actually putting paint on the walls. So I'm hoping maybe we can do one of those video tours or something within the foreseeable future to show everybody just what's happening up there. I think everybody will be very impressed. Other than that, I think that's all I have. Is there anybody for public comment? Gail?
Okay, it is 8:20 PM. I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay. Motion made. All in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Everybody's
Aye.
sailors tonight. Aye, aye. Okay. Have a great Christmas, everybody. Thank you. And actually a happy new year also.
Thanks,
Because we
Dan.
don't meet
Happy New Year.
next year.
Thank you, same to you.
Happy
Thanks,
holidays.
guys.
Thanks.
Happy
Bye.
holidays.
Thank you, staff.